And the next session is about national e-payment and also the new disruptive opportunity. The panelists include Ms. Tongurai Limpiti, Deputy Governor, Bank of Thailand, responsible for financial institution stability and payment system stability. She's also a member of Financial Institutions Policy Committee and also the Payment Systems Committee. And that's the first speaker. And the next panelist is Dr. Arak Sutivong, first Executive Vice President of Siam Commercial Bank. Dr. Arak is in charge of SCB Group Strategy and Strategic Partnership Development. And our last panelist for this session, Mr. Ampol Polohakul, is Executive Vice President and Head of Corporate Strategy Management Division of Kasikornbank. And also, as the Central Bank Governor mentioned, cybersecurity. Now let's hear the perspective of the banks and also the Central Bank of Thailand to touch on this issue of the national e-payment in accordance with the digital economy. And again, this panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Pipat Luengnaruemitchai from Phatra Securities Public Company Limited. And please welcome all the panelists and the moderator. Dr. Pipat, please.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the big panel of the day. I think we have a panel on national e-payment, the new disruptive technology, the new disruptive opportunity. Throughout this morning, I think we've seen previews and mentions about the new national e-payment and prompt pay and the digitalization of the financial sector. Throughout the next 50 minutes or so, I think we will be discussing about these issues, ranging from the impacts that I think these changes would have on the financial landscape and the regulator themselves. And we will also be discussing about what are the banks and regulator planning to adapt and embrace these changes. So, and we have a distinguished panel today. We have Kun Tongurai Limpiti, the Deputy Governor of the Bank of Thailand, in charge of financial institution stability and payment system stability. And next to Kun Tongurai, we have Kun Ampol Polohakul, Executive Vice President of Kasikornbank. He's also, sorry. And to the left of Kun Ampol, we have Kun Arak Sutivong, the first Executive Vice President and Head of Corporate Strategy and Business Development of Siam Commercial Banks. So we have a regulator and we have a key person in charge of corporate strategy from two of the big banks of Thailand. So I guess we would have productive discussion today about the impacts of these changes. Kun Tongurai, let me start off with you. Given the recent development trend and what we have talked about all throughout this morning about the national e-payment and the prompt pay, what are these changes and what do you as a regulator expect to change and how these changes would affect the financial landscape and what's your view on what the BOT and the banking sector should do going forward?
Thank you very much, Doctor. And first, let me take the opportunity to thank the organizer for inviting me to share my view today. It's been an honor. Actually, when you have to be on stage after Minister of Finance and after the governor, then actually I have to say that all the question referred has already been answered by my governor. However, as I've been here, so I try my best to share with you some insight, information for that kind of question. Lots of questions that you ask. Let me first, I have to say that I believe that digital disruption, has impact on everyone, everyday's life, right? If I ask this kind of for their own customer and for financial system, I see three possible options. First is transforming the traditional banking into a digital banking, of which might be A, in an entire reform, B, create a new standalone business, maybe setting up your subsidiary and trial digital banking concept. Because bear in mind here, the customer behavior, the customer acceptance is the key. If you move towards too much digital, we have learned the experience why we launched the prompt pay. We learned that even though we thought it's normal kind of service that we use to service to the customer, there's a lot of questions coming to us. Second, the collaborating by partnering with various digital players. This is a win-win solution in my opinion. That would enable banks to leverage fintech technology and experience, while fintech will enjoy banks' resources, i.e. capital, size, network, and trust. The third is embracing digital technology for some process, such as account opening, lending, transfer and payment, and customer inquiry. I'd like to end my first round by saying that we all know that digitization is unavoidable. Now is the right time to adopt technology and use it as a driver towards a more advanced economy. Digitization, especially national e-payment, will play an important role in improving efficiency of the financial system and increasing Thai people's access to public welfare and financial services. This will help enhance the country's competitiveness and benefit the economy as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have talked a lot about the changes are coming, but I guess the objective of these was probably to encourage the use of electronic payments, reduce the cost, and improve efficiency overall, and probably improve the access to the financial services as well. But from the bank's perspective, with these changes that are coming, do you see these as the opportunity or threat? And how do you see it changing the landscape of the banking industry? Ampol, let me start with that.
Yes, at Kbank we see this more as opportunities. As the Deputy Governor mentioned about having mobile phone, smartphone, I mean, the penetration rate is huge. I mean, I just checked today that line user in Thailand is 33 million. So that's, I mean, indicate the number of smartphone, because you need smartphone to use that. So for Thai banks, we estimate that about 10 million customers are using mobile banking. So that's about just 1/3. So we have huge opportunities to draw the customer to come and use the mobile banking platform for the bank. And for the e-payment, certainly, I mean, a lot of discussion focus on the fee. And I think we have come to that agreement of the fee table, which is quite aggressively low, because we want to promote the adoption. We see the opportunity of the cost reduction and the better utilization of resources after, I mean, customer migrate to use non-cash payment. Then, I mean, those will be the benefits of it, which, I mean, would be for bank and for the Bank of Thailand, and certainly for the society as a whole. Firstly, let's focus on prompt pay service that we're going to launch at the end of October. What we will launch at the end of October would be just P2P, person-to-person payment, which you as a customer need to register citizen ID or mobile phone and link it to the bank account. For the citizen ID, that's mostly for the government to pay the welfare to the citizen, or for the revenue department to send back to you the the tax return. Because I think they announced already that after prompt pay service is on, they will no longer send check. So you have to register to get your tax return on the prompt pay service. But again, it's just phase one. The following phases would be for a consumer to enjoy the convenience of the prompt pay service. Next phase would be C2B, would be G2C, and certainly it would be B2B, business to business. Let me elaborate on the potential opportunity for the bank on the C2B service. I think you have tried e-commerce, you have tried ordering through the website or through the app. The most popular payment method that customer use is what? Cash on delivery, right? Because it's the peace of mind of the customer that, hey, I see the goods, I see it's in good quality, then I'll give you the payment. But it's the pains for the merchant, because who got the money? The delivery personnel. And I heard a lot of them, just gone after they receive a big cash payment from the customer. And besides that, the merchant also have pains in doing the reconciliation, because they have to go back to the back office and reconcile who made this payment, have we sent out the goods. So the bank can add value to that. With the prompt pay service, C2B, we're gonna launch request to pay, we call request to pay service, which the B can send a request to the mobile banking user and request to pay for the goods with the reference number. So the merchant can put in the order number or whatever information that they put into the field that we will store and pass on to the merchant, so that they can confirm that they get the payment, and also they can identify who made the payment, and also avoid the risk of the delivery person just go away. Those are some innovative service that banks can introduce, and certainly we would be able to earn some fee on that because we can add value to the merchant. Certainly, as the Deputy Governor insists, the consumer would not pay a fee. So it will be the merchant who pay the fee. That's some of the new innovative service that banks can add.
And next, let me ask Arak the same thing. Do you share the same thought on that in terms of is this a threat or opportunity? Because if you look at the fee itself, the interbank transfer fee would go down from something like 35 to 50 baht per transaction down to zero, basically. And how would banks offset those the huge reduction in fee, at least in the short term?
First of all, let me echo my concern that I'm being the third person speaking over here. It's not easy. It's the same as Deputy Governor has a chance to follow up from the Minister and the Governor. First of all, I think we are actually in a unique time for the country to do this transformation of the national e-payment or the e-payment infrastructure for the country. It's unique in the sense that we only have a small window to do so. The government supported framework with leadership from BOT and with all the support from the banks. I think here's a very good time and opportunity that all of us need to seize. And then I think all the banks are trying to work towards that. The impact to bank, let's be clear. I think the impact to banks in the near term, the revenue impact will be quite significant, right? The fees virtually free. The investment that collectively banks need to make in order to support the infrastructure is also significant. But at the same time, I think it's beyond just the P&L of banks at this point. For a lot of us, it's more of building a strong infrastructure for the generations to come. And if we are successful in doing that, then we will be able to reap the benefits as a country. Banks obviously will get from the cost saving. Still question mark on how much and when, but I think it's inevitable that we need to move to that. I would then shift the focus to more on how do we drive adoption. Adoption is a network effect. It's one of those things where you need to get to the tipping point, because otherwise this will end up have, as banks, no fee and a lot of infrastructure investment, but no benefit to the country. I think it is with the collaboration with the government, with the MOF, BOT, and all the banks, I'm hopeful on that one. One other thing that I think linked to the comment is on the user adoption around securities. If you see a lot of, in recent weeks, you see a lot of press coverage in terms of the concerns around technology, securities, and all those things. If you think about it, users, actually consumers want two things. One, they want something that's convenient, but at the same time is highly secured, which is not what cash is. If you lose your wallet, then your cash is gone, right? Recently I was in China, and what I saw is that if you I think it was Family Mart, the way they make payment, they just bring up at the counter, bought something, and pull up a phone, WeChat with some QR code. The Family Mart person just bring one scanner, off he went to the, with no receipt, with no checking of any kind, with no securities, with no OTP, with no password. It's just a screen. So in that sense, I think it's also an adoption and a mindset that people need to be aware that once we go into this, it will be a change of mindset and a lot of policies and things like that we need to work out. In the end, though, I think whether these are opportunities or threats, I think if we're able to get people to adopt to the point where we actually truly move into a cashless society, a lot of opportunities out there. Banks, I think we are not used to this kind of environment, but we also see from fintech and a lot of companies where they actually say that there's a way to actually monetize and users are willing to pay for services that typically were just, bank has been playing more on the intermediation. We collect fee along the way in terms of transfer. But those, I think, will more and more, it will be a game of how do we come up with adding the value, creating value-added services and things like that consumers are willing to pay for, and we provide services beyond just being a channel. So those are things that we believe that over time we need to collectively move in order to uplift the infrastructure, but at the same time also opportunity for banks and everyone involved to be able to benefit from this.
All right, thank you. And quickly on, as a follow-up, how quickly do you think the pace of the adoption would be for the case of Thailand? Because you have seen in many countries, I think the cashless society comes at different pace, right? And in countries like Japan or Germany, the cash is still dominant method of payment.
Well, certainly, I hope it will be fast. One thing that what is encouraging and hopeful is that this is actually from behind the scenes, that obviously not over here, but there will be regular meetings among the regulators as well as all the government agencies and units to think about how do we create both incentives for consumers to adopt, right? There'll be programs, stimulation program to help in terms of adoption. The fees practically come down to virtually free. So in that sense, the adoption will be there. The merchants on the EDC machines, the acceptance machines that will be rolling out towards the end of the year also have very low cost that Deputy Governor has already alluded to. I think all the elements are in there. If we can overcome certain fear about the security, about the concern and all those things, I think the adoption will be fast. Hopefully within a few years' time, we will see critical mass of adoption.
And Kun Ampol, a little bit, Kun Arak mentioned about the security issues, and I think K-Bank has been mentioned a bit in the press recently. What's your thought on the security issues and how banks would be able to deal with those concerns?
Certainly, the security is the key issue and key concern of customer. And I think we have to go back when we first introduced credit card, when we first introduced ATM. I mean, the consumers' acceptance always like that. They first they fear of using it. Even the cash deposit machine, I mean, they don't dare to use it until they see some customer use that, and then, hey, it's a lot more convenience. It's no fee. So, I mean, that will drive the adoption. And with the social tools, I think the adoption will be in a very short time. Certainly, security will be an issue, but we need to communicate. And it's the first priority of the financial industry to do a good job on that.
And someone mentioned about the cost distortion between cash transaction and electronic transaction because cash may seemingly free, they are not from bank's perspective. Is that the bank's concern as well in terms of the hurdle, in terms of the adoption?
Yes, and we have consulted with the regulator on that. And I think the Deputy Governor has
Do you want to add something on that?
Actually, to me, you have to accept that we are moving towards aging society. So, in adoption of the new technology, I think it will depend on the experience of the customer first. Don't be rushed, in my opinion. Once you launch it, and it's safe, and it's secure, and it's cheap, that's three keywords in when I raised the issue about payment roadmap. I told my colleague this is the only three key visions for the roadmap. First, it has to be good. It has to be convenience for the customer. If it's convenient, then it has to be safe. If not, then people will not dare using it. And the third one is the pricing. If the price is right, I mean, cheap enough to cover the cost of the bank. When you raise the issue about cash, the cash management is the most expensive way of handling it, right? If you look at the bank balance sheet, you see that each bank has the cash balance about 30,000 million baht each day. This is not a secret. You stated clearly in your balance sheet. Handling 30,000 million baht cash is quite expensive. So we as a regulator quite agree with the bank that after we launch the prompt pay, that means you have like some other alternatives for the customer to do the banking with a cheaper way. Then if the customer still would like to come and talk to the teller at the branch, within a few years, maybe we would allow bank to charge for withdrawal cash.
Not to talk to withdraw.
Talking is free.
Talking is free. Actually, really, you have to pay for the salary.
Okay. Kun Arak, let me come back to you a little bit on the fee reduction, because not only it impact the P&L of the banks, but it's also reduce the switching costs of maybe the customers, maybe a loyal customer of some banks or even non-banks. Would this increase the competitions in the banking system and encourage the competition from non-banks into the territory of the banks?
I think so. I mean, I think the flexibility, I wouldn't see that as a challenge for banks, but in a way, banks are moving towards the mobile number portability, same as telecoms, where you can have a phone number and it can go any carriers, which is good. I think we want to encourage free competition and really not lock in the customer simply because sort of a legacy thing. We want to make sure that we bring the best to the customers. If not banks, fintechs are ready to do that. And in fact, I think Deputy Governor will say something about the sandbox of fintech that a lot of us are actually waiting for. But to me, I think it's a good thing. Also, as a consumer, I prefer to banks and people to compete for my business as opposed to being locked in the fact that I've been using the same bank for a long time and don't want to move the account.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
To add to that about the non-bank, in the prompt pay plan, we would allow customer to link their mobile and citizen ID to the e-wallet. And in the first phase, mainly would be for the major e-wallet providers,
which can be non-banks.
Telcos.
Yeah.
So I believe this would drive the adoption and also the financial inclusion, because we as banks are in Thailand are quite lucky because the banking penetration is like 80-85%, But again, there are still 15 to 20% of the consumer, of the people, mostly in the rural area, that to get to banking service would be very costly to them, both in terms of time and also in terms of cost to travel. So I think having telco into this payment ecosystem would help the financial inclusion. The vision that I think we all share, we have discussed about this, is that if possible, those rural people who come to work in Bangkok, they can send money back to their parents through PromptPay service, which mostly would be free. I think the major way that right now people transfer money back to their countryside is through the post service, because they deliver cash to the home. The cost to get cash at banks or ATM is too costly. So with that, then they would have electronic money in their mobile. Hopefully they can use that PromptPay to go to the shop in the village and just use mobile to pay. So they don't need cash at all. They don't need to get to the cash to make the payment. They just use mobile, and then the store in the village should just show mobile number. Hey, just transfer to this mobile number, and then you will receive the payment. You can make the payment, and then the goods is out. And then the velocity of the transaction, the economic would be better because of the better speed of payment.
A little bit more on the changes that's coming. If we assume that the cashless model would come very soon, what would happen to the bank's business model, like the brick and mortar branches, and what would change in terms of the banking business model?
Again, I think if the consumer behavior really shift, which I doubt it, but if it's very shift, then the resource, the human resources at the branch would be shift toward more productive activities, like service, like sales, advisory. So those are the activities that would be more beneficial to the consumer and also to the bank. So it's going to be win-win. And certainly, the mobile channel would be very critical. We need to focus on improving the customer experience on that. ATM, we believe it would still be there and still very important, but hopefully we would store less cash on the machine.
Could Arak want to add?
I think echo the same view. I think what we serve and how we serve customers will be quite different, particularly the retail consumers. How we serve the channels. In fact, a lot of savings that the national e-payment is promising will come from the fact that we redistribute or replan the distribution, right? The ATMs and the branches will probably see reduction in those channel touch points to redeploy them to locations where they're more suitable. So basic transactions should be done online, and they'll be done online. So those I think in terms of cost saving will come from there. But just because the fact that now the activities that people will go to branches will be different, it will move towards more advisories, more of the consultations as opposed to just to get banknotes or to do transfer. That will put a lot of challenge on banks to rethink about how we train up our people. At the moment, they're focusing more on the services, but now we need to move on to how do we provide consultations and advisory. A lot of changes, but those are good changes for the country.
Thank you. So let me switch gear a bit. I think we talk about the e-payment, which is a key enabler for other financial services industry. And we heard a lot about fintechs and what's coming up. Let me ask you, Tongurai, as a regulator, how do you balance between the role to maintain financial stability on one hand and the role to foster the innovation and financial development on the other? Because if you put too much weight on one of those, things could turn out differently. And what's your thought and thinking at the Bank of Thailand?
As a regulator, again, You know, the old saying that regulators always be the one who put, who draw the punch bowl out of the party, right? So that's always the case. As being a regulator, I thought, recognizing the benefit of digitization on banking efficiency and consumer financial access, we at the Bank of Thailand is more than willing to foster digital financial services while ensuring safe and soundness of the financial system as well as customer protection. By saying that, as I mentioned, we launched the payment system roadmap 3, of which has already been finalized this year, and we plan to launch another payment system roadmap 4, of which we will have to engage all of our stakeholders, TBA and non-bank TEPA together for drafting the new payment roadmap. The last roadmap was divided into 3 phases that was aimed to lay foundation of a strong payment system, promote the use of e-payment and enhanced payment system. As a result of this roadmap, these support the infrastructure and shape the enhanced efficiency to help Thailand to prepare for the digital trend ahead. Actually, we have done our work for more than 5 years. If not, we cannot launch the prompt pay within 6 months. It would be impossible. So that's because we launch and we work together with banks for more than 5 years. Like I mentioned earlier, we take 3 years before we can launch the chip card system, right? That means the back office has already been evolved, prepare for the new type of chip card. We also have a view of any banking anywhere, anytime, any device in our roadmap. So that's why we move towards mobile banking and prompt pay. Of course, the period is quite challenging, but we thought we have gone through difficulty and we can do it within the end of this October. Apart from payment roadmap, actually we have drawn financial sector blueprint 3, of which our governor has already talked about it. And part of it, a very important part of it, is about digitization and efficiency. It is one of the main pillars under the plan. As for the fintech players, the Bank of Thailand recognized the importance of fintech and how they may play a role in fulfilling the gaps by utilizing new technology to improve the access to financial service and promote greater competition in financial market. As financial service naturally involve a large network of people, of course, it is expected that the regulator will have to step in to ensure that the prudential requirement and necessary safeguards are in place. But as I said earlier, it is a duty of regulator to strike the right balance between regulatory requirements and then make sure that this will not disrupt the new technology that we would like to see. You have seen that fintech is a very fast-paced business, so regulating fintech requires some more agility in some form. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to brief you and to share with you what we thought on the approach in regulating fintech, which will revolve around 3 main elements, which are protecting consumer rights, promoting financial innovation, and preserving the financial stability. I have to say these 3 P's keywords that everyone will have to bear in mind. New financial innovation bring about products and ideas that may require some testing in order to evaluate the product's readiness and risk, and to explore consumer behavior, consumer acceptance. For some fintech players, have to meet all the necessary regulatory requirements before they can launch the project may create another significant cost of burden. And that may, deter them from ever entering into the market. So this had led the conception of Bank of Thailand regulatory sandbox. We would like to create somewhat a trial control environment or a safe space where new financial products or services may be tested for a fixed period of time with relaxed regulatory barrier. If you ask me how, I told you really right now, I really don't know how to, because the rule and regulation, if not by law, we can change because we are the one who draw the regulations, right? But if it's stated clearly by law, then it will be another problem. So hopefully all the fintech that comes to us, more than 24 of them, I thought when I looked through it, I thought we can use our arms as a regulator to kind of allow them to use this kind of control environment to try. I thought this is a critical point that everyone would like to hear, right? The Sandbox will welcome financial institution first, who wanted to test a new payments or lending products or channel of services. Instead of waiting for a year, coming to us, talk to us, you can come and say, hey, we have this kind of project. We would like to launch this project in the Sandbox environment. Not just commercial bank, all the fintech firms or all the startup with products that are ready to be tested. I have to say that, ready to be tested, can come. We are more than welcome to join us in a Sandbox environment. Testing will be conducted in a real market. That means you launch the product in the market. Real customer on the condition mutually agree on by commercial bank or fintech and the Bank of Thailand. Maybe we'll have to evolve, SEC and SET if it's involved other regulators. We try to combine all together in one sandbox. And this is just to ensure that potential risk can be contained. For instance, the number of customers involved from the very beginning may be capped at a certain limit, maybe 100 people, 200 people. It depends on the project that you would like to test. For the initial state of the sandbox, we will be focusing on fintech that are related to payments and lending first, or similar activities. Not only will this help them develop their product, but it will also help us as regulators to gain a greater understanding of this new product and technology business model, and work together hand in hand to come up with a good technology for the Thai context, giving us insight on the potential risk involved and also providing a channel for cross communication between fintech operator and regulator. Upon existing of the sandbox, when you engage into sandbox, we'll have time limit. Say maybe a year, maybe 2 years, depend on the project itself. We will kind of agree upon from the very beginning. Once you reach the existing, you want to exit the sandbox. That means maybe you need to get the license. And we know at the time for sure how to supervise them, how to regulate them, to make sure that the consumer will be well protected. That's my keywords. Then once you would like to exit, the success of the test will be evaluated based on the term of agreement that upon before entering the sandbox. If the test was completed and satisfactory result, the fintech operator or the bank can then proceed to launch the product to the public market. That means we will lift the number of potential people or customer involved. But if all the new startup or some fintech that's not ready to launch the project, like some fintech operator may be in their early development stage and may need further funding or guiding, whether it is business guidance or regulatory guidance, or may need some assistance in testing. For this group, they are not ready for our sandbox yet. We would encourage them to join the existing fintech community that comprise of corporate incubator. If anyone here play Pokemon Go, you can imagine some kind of egg incubator. So this kind of new fintech would need this kind of egg incubator. And hopefully after you walk for 5 miles or 10 miles, then this egg incubated and then becomes a very good and nice fintech, right? Hopefully it's not coming out being a dragon or something to the street. So we at the Bank of Thailand also will work closely together with all the fintech community. That means we will not allow this group of startup to be testing the product before we feel comfortable with all the securities. We believe that this kind of sandbox will be one of Thailand's future approaches in supporting its fintech ecology. By finding the right balance between promoting financial innovation and remaining prudent, fintech has the potential to bring many benefits and opportunity to the country.
All right, thank you. And sound like we will have a box for sure, and we can be sure that there will be sand in it for us to play. Kun Arak, let me ask you a follow up to that question. What is the banks and SCB in particular planning to do to embrace these changes, and in particular the fintech businesses?
So with digital disruption, I think I'll be lying if I say what the future will be like. Things change so fast. What we only know is that things will be very different and things will continue to change over time. And at our bank, we don't even try to guess what that end state would be and try to prepare for that. It's just going to be difficult and might not be the most prudent thing to do. What we end up doing is thinking about the approach of how we actually streamline ourselves, become what in the startup world we call become agile in how we work and be ready to accept any changes that will come in and be able to kind of work with those changes. What would be most difficult for us to get to that is actually the mindset of the people, right? I think as bankers, we're so used to doing certain things according to certain set of rules. So those are extremely difficult. People even joke that bankers are just dinosaurs in suits, right? That we are very slow, we make decisions very slow. It takes us very protocol heavy, hierarchical, and all those things. Things like those will not survive in the world that we are approaching. I give you an example. It would take us, there'll be companies that come and talk to us, this is the latest and greatest technology, let's integrate into your system. We say, yes, let's go. And the plan for us, we'll tell them in 18 months we'll be done. And by that time, I don't know, they will be, right? They may have gone to somewhere already. Whereas a lot of more advanced companies will say, within 4 to 6 weeks, we'll know exactly how this will work. That we need to create an environment where we can actually shift from this 18 months to a 4-week cycle. What we do internally there, we actually take a 2-track approach. One is to transform the main bank. The main bank, we need to get into a digital mode where we improve in terms of technology, the process, the people and the mindsets and all those things. A major transformation program is actually happening as we speak. But the other track, which I like to share a little bit more, is how we set things outside the bank. What we know is that internally things are so difficult and people are so used to making certain decisions according to certain policies. And we just need to say, with that kind of thinking, we'll end up producing the exact same kind of output that we have. So what we decided at the beginning of the year is to spin off a company by the name of Digital Ventures. They've been up and running for quite some time now. The intention of that, the mandate given to that digital venture is that you will not be linked to bank in any way, shape, or form in terms of you decide your rules of governance and everything. The only things that we actually sit on, there'll be people from banks sit on the board. Our CEO is the chairman of that, and I'm also a board member of that company. That's the only governance that we link. The rest you decide on your own. How you want to make hiring, how do you want to, the dress code, people, they don't dress this way. They just, they suffocate this way. And if you go, and whenever you have a chance, more than welcome to go see at the office. You won't even recognize that it's a bank. It's completely different. It looks like a startup almost. What we do over there, this also linked to what Deputy Governor is mentioning. We do three things. One is we set up a venture cap around 50 million US to do investment. We already invest in multiple funds. We work with partners to help us identify investment opportunities. We also make direct investment, and there will be some news coming out on some of the key investment that we made. We also do the labs and products with the intention, the mandate given to that team is to do whatever you want to do to disrupt the bank. Otherwise, some fintech will come and disrupt. So their job is to disrupt the bank before others disrupt. They will need to come back and pitch to the banks on what they want to do. And the last one is linked to the incubator idea. We have an accelerator, a program that will help the fintechs to work in a bank environment and to come in. What we find out is that entrepreneurs, they don't want to work for banks. That's not obvious to us, but now it's obvious. They don't want to work for us, but they want to work with us. Meaning that because we actually do have large customer base, we have understanding of the policy, we can help them with a lot of things. So now we set up an environment where they come and somehow together work with us in a way that we can actually jointly go to market and learn from each other in that sense. So that's what we do outside the bank. Hopefully maybe sometime this time next year I'll be able to come back and report the progress a little bit more because it's only about 6 months into the program.
Okay. And are they really willing to disrupt the banks?
That is true. That's the intention, even though we say, but maybe because a lot of us are sitting on the board, so they're quite concerned.
Okay, great. And what about K-Bank? What is K-Bank doing? Is it different from SCB and other banks are doing?
I think we share the same view, but we approach it differently. We see that IT is no longer just a support unit. It's the strategic capability of a financial institution. So we set up what we call KBTG, Kasikornbank Business Technology Group. So we spin off all the IT personnel to those 5 companies under the KBTG. We view it as to attract the talent. We need to, position ourselves well enough, both in terms of branding and in terms of the incentive program to attract the IT, qualified IT personnel. Otherwise, banks, I think, is at the bottom of the list of the company that the new IT staff want to join. So we try to do that. And besides that, IT is also key in doing the collaboration with fintech. So they want to work with us, as Arak said, yes, because we have the big customer base, we have the brand. So we are currently working with some. We have developed some API, so it's going to be launched soon. So that's the approach. I think we cannot avoid working with the disruptors, and I think it can be a win-win collaboration.
So I guess the trend is we not see them as a competitor, but rather we are embracing the changes that are coming. Okay. Tongurai, do you want to have any last words now? We are running about our time now.
Actually, as I mentioned earlier, early this year, I kind of, we have a strategic session with CEO of a bank every early the year. This January, I talked to all the CEO and I shown them, how fintech can eat up the balance sheet of a bank, more than 60%, both deposit, lending or investment, whatsoever. And e-payment would be one of the key issues. And I'm quite lucky, I'm quite happy to see all the bank moves very quick. And when you're talking about your new model of venture cap or whatever, you invest into a venture company whatsoever, actually that's because Bank of Thailand foreseen, and we, allow you to, we kind of amend the regulations beforehand so that we allow you to do this kind of fintech altogether. One thing that I would like to raise for the final words is about consumer, responsibility. All consumer, if the fintech is good, it's fast, it's cheap, it's good, but beware that we as a consumer will have to be responsible. Why do I say that? It's because I have to compare, the mobile banking with the ordinary banking book. If you give your passbook to someone, you sign your name on the withdrawal paper, and you already gave them all the password, or your, citizen card, and with the blank money, and your friends or your secretary can withdraw all the money from your account. I have to compare it with mobile banking. Customer responsibility also are keywords. We cannot rely on bank only. If bank come up with all securities, but you just give all the securities to other people, that means you open up the door for them to withdraw your money. So this is my last word. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much. Thanks for all the panelists for a fruitful discussion today. It's a pleasure having you all with us today. Please join me in thanking all the panelists today.
Thank you very much for this productive and very interesting session. We would like to invite you all to lunch in the Renaissance residence room in the mezzanine floor. And also the afternoon session will start at 1:30 p.m. Please also bring your belonging with you because the room setting in here will be changed. So we meet again at 1:30 p.m. in this room. Enjoy your lunch.